version 17.14.0. That's the current version. If you have not received that CD yet, you should be receiving it shortly. Folks who are on our Church Windows web version should already be on that version 17. So especially for folks with the new version of our program, our website at churchwindows.com is a wonderful resource for you, getting used to the new programs here. If you scroll down our web page, there's a blue navigation bar that goes down the left side of our website. Underneath where it says using Church Windows, the blue bubble here, I want to specifically, there's some support documents and links page, which is right here, with some resources for you. And in addition to the support documents and links, there is also the support blog, which is right below it right here. So the support blog, I'm going to go ahead and click on that. We are updating this blog all the time with topics and information that we think might be useful for folks. You can filter the topics on the blog by clicking on the links up at the top. If I want to filter by membership, I can simply click there. So here is various topics on here. You also have a search box right here. If you have, for example, if you're looking for information about the bank reconciliation, I'll just type in the word bank, I'll click search, and there's a number of topics there. There's our several topics about bank reconciliation there. So a lot of great information there for you to find more info about Church Windows going forward. All right, so let's go ahead and get started for our topic of the day. The new membership module is available by clicking on the little membership button on our opening button bar for Church Windows version 17. It's going to take you to the membership portal. Okay, from here we have our new reports, and the new email feature is right here. But before I click on that and get to a specific discussion about the way it works functionally in our program here, I want to take a step back and talk a little bit more big picture. Folks who have been using the email features in the membership module prior to this version are accustomed to the way that version used to send the emails. And what it would do is the old version of membership would require you to have your own email program on your computer, such as Outlook or Outlook Express. And when you would click to send an email from membership, it would access your default program and open up a window that would allow you to compose an email. But that window that it would open, it would call to Outlook, or it would call to Outlook Express. The current version of Church Windows and the email features in version 17 allow you to compose your emails directly from Church Windows. It does not call to another program on your local computer, which is wonderful for folks who didn't have Outlook or Outlook Express on their computers. The old email program didn't used to work for folks who would need to go out to the internet, like for example to Gmail or to Yahoo, type in their username and password, and would do their email directly from the internet. So the new feature allows folks who do internet mail to be able to use the features here, whereas previously they did not. So now, the new features in membership require you to configure Church Windows to communicate to the email server that hosts a valid email account, your email. It uses what's called SMTP, which is the language that email uses on the internet. SMTP standing for Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. You set Church Windows up with all of your email accounts settings so that our program can hook into your email account on your email server, and then you can compose emails in Church Windows. It will access your email account on that email server and use that account to send the email out that you compose in Church Windows. The old version of the program, like I said, would access Outlook or Outlook Express. You would have already set up Outlook or Outlook Express to access your email account. So it's just a matter of configuring Church Windows to hook into an email account. So the first thing we're going to be talking about is setting that up. So what we're setting up in Church Windows is having Church Windows hook into the email account that you will be sending your emails from. So the place you go to set that up, if you open up membership, you go to your reports menu, you can click on the email link on that drop down list there. It's going to take you to your search box for the email report. This is where you would, and we'll talk about this in a few moments, this is where you set up your search criteria. You can search by anything from your membership module here to generate a list of people that you're going to be sending your email to. I'm simply going to click next on this window to take us to the actual email screen. From this window, which is formatting strangely here, let me see if I can get that to format a little better. From this window right here, there are two options up at the top of the screen here. The email setting is where you set up that SMTP email server that Church Windows is going to hook into. And the email message field below that is where you actually compose your email. So before you can compose emails and send them to all the people on this list here, you have to configure that email account that you're going to be sending this from. Okay, so to add a new email setting, you click on the green plus button. By the way, this will only need to be done once. Once you have Church Windows hooked into that account, you will not need to set it up again. So I'll go ahead and click on my plus button and it takes us to our Setup SMTP email window. The display name at the very top is just there. It's basically the name that's going to appear when you do your drop-down list here for email setting if you set up more than one email account to use Church Windows from. So I'm going to call the display name the webinar email. Then the line below that, the outgoing mail server. This is the computer out on the internet that is hosting your email account. So setting up a new email server is done by clicking on the little plus button here. Now, this information here, you may need to get this information from your internet service provider, which hosts your email address. SMTP host address is the name of that computer out on the internet for the purposes of connecting and sending email. So I've got an email account that we're going to be using in our webinar today. It's an email box out on Yahoo, so a mail.yahoo.com email account that we're going to be using to send our emails from for the purposes of this webinar. It could be a Gmail account, could be your internet provider like Time Warner or Charter or whoever hosts your email address. You set this up here. So the name of the servers that host Yahoo email are called smtp.mail.yahoo.com. That is the name of the email servers out on the internet there. The way that you communicate with that server are what you do on the next lines here. This use SSL section right here is about internet security. What type of security does that email server use? In the case of the Yahoo accounts, it uses what's called implicit security. So we'll set that out as implicit here. Implicit versus explicit security. For the tech nerds out there, implicit is a continuous handshaking of security information. I contact that email server, we exchange security certificates. The security is constant through the entire transaction when you use that. Explicit security only has those secure connections when you first connect to the server. They're both they're just different ways of handling the way the secure connection is used. Also, sometimes there will be no SSL or no security to the connection as well. So we will use implicit security for this one. And the port number is basically just the like what road you're driving to get there, basically. So port number 465 for implicit SSL here. Server timeout is if there is some kind of lag in the connection between your computer and the email server. You can usually leave that as 0 seconds there. In order to set up this email account from here, you must perform a connection test. Church Windows must be able to connect to that, and we don't get a connection here. Did I have that set up improperly? What did I type? Oh, it would help if I typed in the name of the actual server properly up here, smtp.mail. Okay, now that that name is actually correct, I'm hopeful that we'll be able to connect to it. Bear with me for a moment. This is already in our system here. Okay. So again, once you have all of these things set up, you must perform your connection test. I apologize about the speed bump there, folks. Church Windows then, as long as you have an internet connection on your computer, is going to go out to the internet and try to communicate with an email server using those settings. Connection test was successful. Messages such as this let us know that Church Windows can talk to those computers that host the email account. When I click OK, you'll have a green button here. You can click OK. You now have set up that email server that hosts your email address. The next thing you set up is the from email address section here, which is the actual email, the inbox basically that you have over there at that server. Let's see if we have. Okay, we don't already have it set up, so I can set up a new one here. I'm going to click on my plus button here to set up a new email address for that. We are using churchwindows101 at yahoo.com. That's the actual email address that you set up there. The name or organization name box that is listed down below there is when they actually receive the email, that's what's going to be listed in the from box on that email, which can be different than the actual email address that you set up in here. So that is what you set up on this screen here. When you click OK, it'll fill in that information on there. Then you must set up your password in order to connect into that email address. All these email accounts have an address and then a password that need to be entered in through here. I'm entering my password there. And in order to make sure that not only is Church Windows able to connect to the server, but also able to log into your email account, you must send a test email from here. Enter an email address that you have access to. A test email will be sent to this address. I will use my same account here. Click OK. It's hooking in there, and Church Windows at this point in the process is sending a test email to the account listed on the screen here to let you know that your connection test is successful and that Church Windows is now going to be able to use that email account. I will show you what that email looks like. I'll go to my Yahoo page here. Oops. Good. I'm logged into the wrong one here. Hold on for a moment. Sign in. I'm now getting into that email account that I'm trying to use for Church Windows. This is what the test email looks like. This email was sent by the church at this time. This email, test for webinar email, was successful. This is what you will get in your inbox when you successfully hook the Church Windows program into that account. So cool, that's what that's going to look like. Let's go back into membership. You'll have a little green button here underneath where it says send test email. We now have hooked into this Church Windows 101 at yahoo.com account, and that is where we are going to send our emails from. Okay, so Church Windows hooks into that email account. That's the email account that's going to send the emails. When you're all set, you click OK, and now at the top where it says email setting, you'll have that listed in there. So I created it as our webinar email, and that's what you see listed in there. Okay, now that is step one. Church Windows is now hooked into my email account. Now I am ready to be able to use the features from membership to send emails. Now I'm going to go ahead and exit out of here because there are a couple of things that need to be set up here in membership beyond that also need to be configured properly to use this feature. In membership, I'm going to go ahead and open up my members window. You must have an email address field here in membership in order to track the folks' email addresses that you're going to be sending the emails to. Okay, so we've got a field in our training data that we use here called email address. So you go to the individual member records, you fill in their various email addresses on here. Now, if your Church Windows database does not have an email field in it now, you can set it up at any time. One of the wonderful things about the Church Windows membership module is how customizable it is. If you don't have a field, you can create the field. So here on the membership members window, if I open my options menu up here at the top, I can go to my customize fields section on that menu. This is where we go to set up new fields in membership. And again, this is where you are going to go if you do not currently have an email field set up in the membership module. You can relabel / hide fields tab along the top is where you can kind of rename some of the things in the membership module that you can't really change. So you can rename the giver number field or the geographic area field on the first tab here. The second tab is the one where we can create new fields, the add / delete / rearrange fields for member file tab. So on this screen, it's going to list all of the different fields that you already have set up in Church Windows. We obviously already have an email address field, as we see it listed on this line here. But if you needed to create a new email field to track this information in membership, you would click on the Add Field button in the upper right-hand corner right here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Add field. I will call my field webinar email. And so that's the name of the field as it appears on the membership module. For type, listed below that, if you click on the down arrow, if you create it as a character field, which is the top option here, it is not going to interface with all of the different email functions in membership. It must be set up as an actual email field. Email fields and character fields look the same on your membership members window. You can type whatever you want to into the fields. The difference being character fields do not interface with the email features, whereas email fields do. So I'll select it as an email field. When I click OK, you'll see our new field here, webinar email. In the type column here, this column right here, under type, you'll see it set up as an E or email field. Okay, so it has to be, if you come to this add, delete, rearrange fields for a member file, your email field that you use in membership must be listed as an E for an email field here. Now, this is all in case you don't have an email field already, but if you do, then you must fill in the email addresses for each of your members or any of the folks that you have in your membership database that you're going to be sending emails to. Okay, so again, what we set up first, that SMTP email, is where you're sending the emails from. What you're entering on the individual records here in the membership module are going to be who you are sending the emails to. Okay, so all of this stuff being set up properly now in our membership module. Now we can go ahead and actually use the feature and send emails from membership. There are multiple places that you can go to send emails. If you want to send a single email to one person, you can either do that from the membership members window right here. If I want to send an email to Mr. Bob Jones here, there is a button up at the top of the membership members window right up here, this little email thing right there that you can use to send an email to just Bob. And of course, in regular use of the database here, if you want to locate an individual member here, you can use the Find button at the top. Type their last name in here. Scroll down a little bit, you'll see Bob. Grab that record, click on the Go button, and it will take you to his record. From Bob's record, you can click on the email button up here at the top to send a single email to him. The other place you can find an individual to send a single email to is from your contact list. The contact list is listed down in the lower right-hand corner of either your membership module. Now, even if I'm not working in the membership members window, here I am from my opening membership portal, you'll still notice down in the lower right-hand corner you've got your contact list. So you don't always have to open up the membership members window right there. You don't always have to open up the membership members window in order to get to an individual record to send an email from. So I can also click on that contact list button. It brings me to a grid, which is painting strangely today, of all of the folks in our member file as well as our visitor file. I can type in Jones. There's Bob right there. You're going to see his email address listed there. You select that line, and you can click the email button at the top. When you click on the email button up at the top, it's going to take you to your email window where you can send a single email to him. Here's how that bit works. From here, again, like we had already set up an email setting to interact with our Yahoo account, I can just click on my down arrow. There is my webinar email account. One of the things this allows you to do is if you have different email accounts you like to send emails from, having multiple email settings will allow you to select which of the email accounts you want to use. So I'm going to go ahead and use my webinar email that we've already created in our class here today. And then below that, you'll see the email message field. This is where you compose your emails from. And this is the thing that I was really excited about when version 17, when we were doing all of our testing for version 17 here. There's an add button right over here, this little green button over to the right where it says email message. And that takes you to this window right here, the message window, which allows you to compose your own emails. It is a fully functioning email composition tool we've got right here in Church Windows now. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and do my subject. I'm sending a webinar email to Bob. I'm going to go ahead and compose that. I'm hosting a webinar right now. I thought you should know how awesome it's going. So I can compose an email and I can send that to Bob here. Now, I want to spend a little bit on this window to talk about some of the options that you have in terms of composing that email. Of course, you can change your fonts from this screen here. Well, actually, back up one step. We've got a series of tabs along the top here that you can go to up here. It defaults to that Home tab, which is what we're looking at right now, which has all of the default tools here, which includes changing your font right over here. You can change the size of the size of the text using this one here. Bold, indent, underline, basic compositional tools. You can change the color of your text through here. You can set up outlines and things along those lines using these buttons up here. So it's basic functionality on the Home tab here. If you go to the Insert tab along the top, you'll see you can add attachments from here. So like, for example, if you're sending an email out to somebody and you have a document you want to attach, you can just use your Attach File button up here at the top to include that attachment there. You can insert pictures or tables from the Insert tab as well right here. So yeah, it's all basic email functionality that you can kind of explore from here. While we're looking at all of this stuff, another nice tool that you have available to you in Church Windows is whenever you're working in any particular part of our program, notice down here at the bottom of the screen where it says press F1 key for help. A lot of folks, that's been there for a very long time, and a lot of folks just kind of look right past and don't even notice it there. But what that means is whatever window you're looking at in Church Windows, whatever part of the program you're working in, if you want more information about it, you just press the F1 key on your keyboard and it takes you directly to a help screen. In this case, it didn't format properly, that you can use. So from here, actually I can go right to the search here, list all the email topics on here, and you can get more information about all of these different parts of the program. Throughout most of the program, it's going to take you directly to the page you need. It doesn't appear to work on this particular window. So that F1 key on your keyboard is going to be a really handy tool that you have available to you to get more information about the Church Windows program. So from here, I've composed my email. You go to the tab on the left and click on the little down arrow there, and you have options from here. If I just want to send Bob this email quickly, I can simply click on the Send Email button from here, which is what I think I'm going to start with here. So I can print the text of the email using Quick Print or the print button here. Quick Print just sends it directly to your default printer. The print button with the little green question mark here allows you to set change what printer you're sending it to and things along those lines. We're going to talk about saving the email format in just a moment. So if I just click on my Send Email button right here, it's going to bring me to the Send Email window here. What people from the grid are we going to send it to? We will take a look at sending an email to multiple people here shortly. But all I need to do if I want to send Bob this email is click on Send Email here. Emailing completed, click OK to view the results. On a single email, this is not going to be that informative necessarily. When we send a mass email, these are what the screens are going to end up looking like. When you click OK from here, it takes you to a report, which didn't pop in front, that gives you all of the information about the email you just sent. If this were a mass email that you had sent to a series of people, this would give you a listing under Sent Message Details of all of the individual emails that were sent successfully. It gives you the date that it was sent, the time that it was sent, and the email address that it was sent to under where it says sent message details here. If you did send a large series of emails and some of them failed for one or more reasons, you'll get a message right here that tells you how many emails failed to send, and then you will have a section below that called failed message details, and it will be a listing of which email addresses Church Windows failed to send them to with a short description of why. Hopefully that will be enough information to let you know kind of why. Whether that email address was typed in improperly, whether it's an invalid email address, different details will be listed in there for why Church Windows was unable to send that email. And again, this is a much better, much more useful window if it's a mass email that you sent out to a large number of folks. Okay. Now that I've sent this little email out, let's go ahead and take a look at it. I need to log out here. That's the email account I just sent that from. So I'm going to go ahead and sign into Bob's email, my sample Bob email here. And we'll get a look at what Bob received. Hey Bob, hosting a webinar right now. I thought you should know how awesome it's going. So that is sending a single email to somebody from the Church Windows membership module right there. Again, this can be done from the contact list or from their individual record and membership. When you are finished sending your email, you can close the window. It will ask you if you want to save this format or not. I'm going to say no because this is not an email that we send regularly. The program does allow you to save formats of emails if it's an email that you send out regularly. Let's say, for example, your church has a monthly drive of some kind. You have a fish fry every month to take money in on behalf of something. Okay, so but you wanted to set up a default email that you send out regularly, or maybe even something to let folks know that you have a newsletter available. Any number of things like that. You can save email message formats when you add a new format here. When you set that email up that you want to be able to recreate, from your drop-down list here, you can actually save the format. Message was saved. When you do that, now you will have on your drop-down list underneath where it says email message here, did I not tell it to save? I said no when I exited that, didn't I? Well, lesson learned. Okay, so when you exit out of here, it should say save this email. We'll say yes there. There it is. Okay, so you may have a series of different saved email formats listed here underneath email message, and you can use that from the different screens in membership when you're sending your emails. So that'll be a saved format that you can use over and over again if you don't want to simply compose a brand new email every time. Okay. Now, the other situation that we want to make sure that we cover for our webinar here today is sending a mass email. Sending a mass email out of membership here kind of requires, again, it requires everybody in your system here having email addresses recorded to their records. Then you can do a search here in membership and send that email to all those folks. So if I go to reports and I go to my email window here, it'll take you to the email window where you can do your searches. So from here, you basically do your search for whatever group of people you choose to. And again, in the upper left-hand corner where it says select a membership field, if I click on my down arrow, you'll have your listing of all of your different fields. You can either use the scroll bar over here on the right side, or on your keyboard you can type in the first letter of whatever field you're searching for. So let's say, for example, I want to send an email to all of my active members. Active members are coded using a field called status in the membership module. If I just hit the S key on my keyboard, it'll skip me down to all of my fields that have an S in them, and I can select status from there. So when I select status, it gives me a listing of all of my different statuses that I have here in Church Windows. I'm going to send an email to all of my active members. I'll put a check mark for active member. Click on the plus selection button underneath here. It's going to add that search criteria to my list down underneath where it says select membership individuals fitting these criteria down here. If I had other criteria I wanted to look for, I could then do another search criteria by using my AND button. I can go up here, let's say I only wanted folks with a particular mailing code. Only folks who get all mailings who are coded as members. So they're status equal to active members, mailing code equal to all mailings. Those are the folks I'm going to send this email to. When I've got all of my search criteria, and this is, by the way, this is just an example. There are any number of searches you can do on here. Also from here, if you want to save this format, you can go down to Saved Selections here, click on the little floppy disk button right here, and you can save this format. This will be my active member mailing. So now that'll be, I don't have to do these search criteria every time I come to this window if I use my Save Selection button right down here. When I'm all set to go, I simply click Next, and it takes me to this window where it shows a grid. There's a scroll bar over here to the right showing a listing of all of the folks who are valid to get that email. Again, up here at the top in the upper left, for our email setting, we have to select which email account we're sending the email from. I'll select the webinar email here. For email message, I can either click on my down arrow and select the email that I've saved the format for, or I can click on my plus button and compose a new email. And compose whatever appropriate email you have. And do whatever is appropriate to set up for the email that you need to send. Now, I am not going to send this email because the training data that we have set up in our system here, all of these different folks with these email addresses, they're not valid email addresses, and we're kind of afraid that if some of them are actually valid, we'll be sending weird emails to people who we don't know here. We do not have, the question came in about having a signature field that we can paste into here. We don't have that in the program right now. It is a suggestion for a future release of membership, but we do not have that on here now. If you have a signature, of course, in another program, you can copy it to a clipboard and use the paste button up here to paste that signature into here, but we don't have a formatting tool for that in our email function right now. I suspect it's coming in a future release, but it's not in there at this moment. So then from here, click on send email, and it will go through each of the individual emails in the same screen that we had seen previously and send them out to everybody. Also, if you wanted to individually, the other thing I want to mention here is that if you want to individually go through this list and select individual names, you'll notice here that there's an email column here with checkboxes. If I went uncheck email for all on this screen, I can select individual folks I want to send that email to, and then click send email, and it will send that to them. Is Bob on here? So for example, if I did select Bob, other individual folks, and I clicked on send email, this one I know it's a valid email address that I have access to. But if we had multiple names on this list, we could click on send email, and it'll generate each of those emails. You'll see that progress bar fill up. It'll send one email, the progress bar will fill up, and it'll individually send all of those emails that you have set up there. And again, you'll get your text file, your informational log about the success or lack thereof of all the emails that you just sent. Cool. Well, folks, a little note about that. This is the same back-end function that we have built into our donations module to send donation statements from. So for folks who have been using the donation statement email feature, this would have already been set up. All of this SMTP server stuff that we did at the beginning of our webinar here, if you've been sending emails from the donation statement function, if you've already set it up, all of the email features here in membership, that SMTP address account will already be listed here. So the email setting, if you had already set it up for donation statements over in donations, then that will carry over to the email functions here in membership. Okay, so kind of the concluding thought here about the email function in donations and now over here in the membership module. When there is a bit of customization, or there's a bit of setup involved with this. You set up the connection from Church Windows to your email account first. That is one of the more technical, kind of techie, nerdy things that we have here in Church Windows that kind of require a little bit of computer knowledge to get all of that information. But once it is set up, it only needs to be done once, and then you can go forward from there using that email function. Question coming in about when you send the email, about whether there's a blind carbon copy field or there's a to field that you're using when you send the email. The cool thing about this email function as opposed to the one from the other membership module is that each of these emails are sent one at a time. So it's not one email that you send to a whole large series of people. So adding to the blind carbon copy field or the to field is irrelevant since it's individually sending emails. So they will get a single email from you to them. There is no need for carbon copy or blind carbon copy when you send those emails. It is just from your account to their account. The other consideration to keep in mind, by the way, because of the way Church Windows hooks into a particular email account, if you are sending an email to many, many people, several hundred people, for example, the internet service provider for the email account that you are hooking into, there may be limits to the number of emails you can send from that email account, either in a day or in an hour or something like that. We have seen a few folks who sent email blasts to like 500 people, their internet service provider blocked it because it does not allow you to send that many emails all at once. So again, this is one thing where you may need to contact your internet service provider if they're and get information kind of if there are limits to the number of emails that you can send in a particular day. Okay. All right. So let me go ahead and close out of here if it will allow me to. Come on. Silly graphics card. Okay, well, anyway, that's basically the topics that I have for our class here today. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us here today. If you're all set, feel free to go ahead and click on the X in the upper right-hand corner of your GoToWebinar control panel. And I thank you so much for joining me here today, and I hope you have a lovely afternoon. For any other folks who still have questions, feel free to hang around. I'm going to leave the room open. And you can go ahead and feel free to type any questions that you have into the box there. Rachel and Ross will be answering questions, and if there are particular topics that need to be brought to everybody's attention, I'll just jump in here and explain things to everybody. Thanks so much for joining me here today, everyone. I hope you guys have a good afternoon. Okay, so for everybody else still hanging around, one of the topics that somebody did bring up is printing labels for folks who don't have an email account. So you send out a big mass email to everybody who's coded as an active member, but then you want to turn around and print labels for all of those same folks who don't have an email address in your system here. So real quick, I'll show you how to do something along those lines. All of this is here in the program. You just kind of need to be able to extract that data out of here. If you go to reports and labels on here, you can do a search for folks who don't have an email account. That search that I had done earlier, remember, it was status equal to active with a particular mailing code. It was like all mailings, I think I did. Now, if I want to print labels to all of the folks from this list who don't have an email account, I would then do one more search criteria here, and I'd say email address is blank. So all of the active members who have a mailing code of all mailings but do not have an email address. So this is the search that I would do. When I click next, it'll give me a label grid. These are all the folks that don't have that. You simply click print and you can print labels for all of those folks. There's all those guys who don't have email accounts who are active members of our church. Again, it's just a matter of doing the same search you did for your email list, going and email address is blank. We are having strange graphic card issues here with church windows. My windows aren't formatting properly. Nope, not letting me close out of there. Yeah, feel free to go ahead and type any questions that you might have here. Again, I'm going to go ahead and leave the room open. I'll jump in if there's something we need to discuss with everybody. Okay, I'm going to pull out a couple of individual questions here and answer them on the webinar. Um, Gloria asked if replies to emails. If you send out emails, keep in mind when you send emails from the membership module here in Church Windows, the email is being sent from the email account that you set up here in the program. So if you send these emails from Church Windows, the people who receive that email then turn around and click on the reply button. It goes back to the inbox of that email account you set up in the first place. Church Windows, there's no inbox here in the Church Windows program. The inbox is over at the account that you set up for Church Windows. So in this case, I'd go in the example that we use here in our webinar today. I'd just log into mail.yahoo.com and it'd be in the inbox of that email account. Let's see. Um, I think this question here from Martha about sending out emails kind of without doing a search. That's kind of what I was talking about. If you simply go to the email list here, there's a couple of things you can do with that. If I don't enter any search criteria here for email and I simply click next, this grid now is everybody that I have an email account for in my database. If I click on uncheck email for all, it'll uncheck everybody's email account on this list. Then I can go through my list and just select individual people I want to send the email to. That allows me to simply select individual people I want to send the email to without having to do a full search. So again, if you just want to select individual emails to send to, I can just, on the email window here, not enter any search criteria, click next, here's everybody, and then click uncheck email and just kind of individually select folks to send those emails to from here. And the rest of it works the same way as we've been discussing here today. Uh, yeah, Shelley asked about using the donation statement email feature. Um, if you have been using the donation statement email feature and you have set up donations already to send emails from there, when you get the 17, when you update to version 17, you will not need to enter all of that information again. It will carry over from the donations module, and that will already be available to you over here in membership. Again, there will not need to be double entry. It carries over from the donations statement function to the email functions over here in membership. So there will be no need to re-enter all of those things. Another thing I think folks are kind of filtering and asking about are sending emails to groups. You know, if you have set up groups and classes and you want to send an email to a particular group or group class, you can select on the email field here the groups and classes section here. Here are all of your groups you have already set up. So from here, let's say I want to send an email to all of the folks in my finance committee. You simply select that group, click OK, add that selection. When I go next, I don't even know who's going to be here. All of the members of our finance committee, I can use this email feature and send an email to all those folks in our finance committee the same way. So groups and classes is one of the search criteria that you can use for sending emails. This button here, we had a question come in about the print labels for people with no email. This button here just takes you to the labels report. Oh, I did. This is, let me see. This is going to give me, I believe, all of the folks who didn't have an email address for my original search. Okay. I just learned something today. When you do your original search on the email window, it gives you a grid of all of the people who met that criteria here that have an email account in the system. If you click on the print labels for people with no email, then it automatically generates you a list of all of the folks who you don't have an email from. This is even easier than what I just showed you a minute ago. You can simply print your labels from there. I'm going to make sure. That is correct. Good. So, yeah, when you do your email report, if you use the print labels for people with no email, it will automatically print labels for all of the folks from your original search who you don't have an email account with here in the system. Golly, this thing is going. This computer is tired. It is acting strangely here. Um, the new email program in Church Windows does not preclude you from still using Outlook. If you are accustomed to sending emails from Outlook and you have a contact list in that program, simply updating to Church Windows version 17 doesn't cause Outlook to stop working. So this isn't going to installing Church Windows 17 is not going to replace other programs that you have on your computer. You can have multiple email programs set up on the same machine. They can actually hook into the same email account even. So you can send emails from Outlook and send emails from Church Windows. What Church Windows won't do anymore is access the Outlook program directly the way it used to. Outlook will not stop working simply because you installed Church Windows. So you can still send emails from Outlook the way you do now, or you can use the composition features in Church Windows 17 to send emails. It's an addition. It won't delete Outlook from your computer or erase the settings from Outlook or anything along those lines. Also, a lot of folks coming in with questions about implicit email versus explicit email. That is basically information you will get from your internet service provider. The people who host your email account set up the security for that email server. Okay. This is not a topic I am an expert in. If you contact your internet service provider, they will tell you the type of security that they use for their email server. So basically, again, in the case of the Yahoo email accounts, they use the implicit SSL versus the explicit SSL. So it's just different ways that email security is handled for that. There is a little bit more information if you click on the little question mark button here. But again, getting deep into the nitty gritty about the way the security certificates work and the way all of this is handled on the internet. I am not an expert in that. I would be the folks who set up the email servers set all that up. So again, that's just information you can get from your internet service provider or the folks who host your email account. All right, folks, I'm going to go ahead and close the room out here. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you guys have a good afternoon. Thanks, everybody.